Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Welcome to it. Great to be with you on a Tuesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Signing Day Eve. Plenty tomorrow, but a lot to get to today. We'll spend time with Mitch Sherman from The Athletic in about 20 minutes. In hour two, we'll run down Andy Markowski. Pride Award, some Husker basketball thoughts as the Big Red get into action. A little bit later tonight, the Husker women host Kansas tomorrow. And then off to the NFL, Travis Vokolek will join us. We had a chance to sit down a little bit earlier with Travis, and he's a little more aerodynamic now. I mean, I'm kind of spilling the beans.
Well, do you want to bury the lead or not? That's the question.
We'll just let folks do the math.
Okay.
All right, we'll just... Pretty cool.
Yeah, he very aerodynamic, wearing a Speedo for this interview is quite impressive.
No, dude. That absolutely seals that he'll never, ever come back on with us again.
Well, I'm sure that's where people's mind first went whenever you said he's a little more aerodynamic now.
Just you. Just you. Not me. He may have been to the barber. There. Fine. As Elijah Herbel spoils it. You want to tell folks about Santa Claus too, or are we good?
Well, he already handled that a couple years ago. We're good.
I love him. So, yeah, we'll get into it, but still lots going on the recruiting front, and a couple of stories that are also out there. We'll spend some time with Mitch on Dylan Raiola. And what's your feel here, Elijah, with some of the pictures that are out on social media? Are you reading too much into? Is it a up-to-date picture? A lot of Nebraska gear on Dylan Raiola here the last 24 hours, or were those just older pics that were posted? Were they current?
They sure look to be the newest Adidas Ultra Boost Nebraska branded shoes, but hey. I'm not close. I mean, that's a question for Carson, not a question for me. He'd know better than me.
Yeah, no, the Nebraska issued Ultra Boost, yeah, for sure. But we'll get into to Nebraska's chances and Deion's doings. A lot of as much buzz as there has been about Coach Prime. There's a whole list of recruits that are not real happy with Coach Prime because their scholarships offers have not been honored by the Buffs, even though their AD made a phone call saying, hey, stick with us with this coaching change. So news of the day and a couple of reports out from On3. One with another addition likely for Nebraska's football staff. Rob Wager is a pretty highly decorated high school coach from Arlington Martin High School in the state of Texas. And indications look to be that he'll be likely to be added to Nebraska's staff in some form or fashion. And then there's Casey Thompson. Casey Thompson's dad, Charles, great quarterback. We talked to Charles before Nebraska, Oklahoma, checked in with SIP. And we have some clarity on Nebraska's quarterback situation. Casey Thompson plans to fight for and win the gig in 2023. No news on Elijah Judy yet, as Nebraska is in the mix for him. Of course, Nebraska still in the mix for Chief Borders. He'll make his announcement tonight. And I know we were asking a week ago whether you're a stars person, a rankings person, or a fit person. And it's more and more like Rhule's all about fit versus numbers. But those fit have turned into some numbers as Nebraska's projected recruiting ranking has climbed all the way up to at least number 6 in the Big Ten. So that's pretty impressive, pretty nice. But I want to go back to Nebraska's current 19 commits.
Well,
you've got Goldman also that made his commitment late yesterday from Gretna.
It's 19 current commits, but I'm going to do some research into the tweets of Matt Rhule. And a lot of people saw a tweet from Matt Rhule yesterday. It included 5 different phone emojis, 5 different star emojis, and then the last one was like a phone vibrate type emoji.
So he's waiting on an answer.
I saw 5 phone calls
from
from 5 different stars. And some
you're
people,
going to interpret.
I'm going to try my best to interpret. People saw 5 different star emojis in that tweet, and they said, well, Matt Rhule must be talking to a 5-star. I read into that completely differently. I saw 5 different phones and 5 different stars, which indicates 5 different people. 5 different players that Matt Rhule thinks could be stars. Okay. How many commitments did Nebraska get yesterday, Schmitty?
5.
It's 4.
4. So
it was 4.
There's one more to go.
There could be one person that called up Matt Rhule yesterday and said, I'm in, and hasn't gone public with that information yet. Who do we think that is? I don't know. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow. But that's how I read it.
Is he on 70th Street?
It's a very, very good question to ask, Schmitty. And I have no inside information here, but that's where my mind first goes. Whenever I see that tweet, it makes me think Matt Rhule got calls from 5 different guys yesterday saying they were in. So who is that 5th? If I'm correct.
Let's do the math. So you got Goldman,
Majacek. I probably screwed up. Majacek. I was close.
Okay, it's fine. You got the defensive end,
Princewell.
We're going to just leave the front. Go with first names today. 4th.
That would be.
Was it the running back?
No.
He's not committed yet. The NC State kid. This is wonderful.
Wait.
What?
Have I done my math completely wrong here?
I think maybe you have.
Oh, it's such a good theory.
No, it worked. You know who's crying in their beer right now? Iowa, absolutely crying in their beer.
They just lost a 5-star.
Their 5-star offensive tackle, Caden Proctor, has flipped to Bama. But let's spend a minute here on coaching, all right, and Matt Rhule and what he's doing. And you've seen him go get high school coaches. It's been outlined here with the Rhule blueprint, so to speak. You've seen Brady Oltman's stories from Hale Varsity on just the connection he made in Texas. And if you can grab a highly touted prep coach that's been a part of the last 7 Under Armour All-American games, coached them in some form or fashion, where would you put a guy like Rob Wager? And with Wager, do you put him at tight ends coach and move Satterfield off to the quarterback coach since you know Pete's is not coming? You already took Phil Simpson, who did wonderful work down in Florida. So you have probably a high school coach from the state of Texas. You have a high school coach from the state of Florida. We were talking out loud when Rhule was hired. Do you go get a guy from the state of Nebraska as part of that triumvirate? Now, you're going to need to recruit Florida. You're going to need to recruit Texas well, like you did during the Osborne era and after, and sprinkle in some of that Southern talent with presumably your in-state or selected offensive lineman from that 500-mile radius. That's your blueprint to build, is to go get linemen from the state of Nebraska or surrounding states. And if you have a skill guy like an Amon Green up the road in Omaha, absolutely go do it. You got some talent out in Cozad like a Brendan Holbein, you go do it, right? Or Clester Johnson, Damon Benning. You go through the list of the in-state skill guys for sure. But your bread and butter is going to be your in-state tough dudes on the offensive line when you think of the Zadiskas and Wiegerts, and I'm missing the Noonans, right, on the interior. So Nebraska has done it before, and now to go get a high school coach from Texas and from Florida is brilliant because of those ties, and you've got maybe some pipelines that can lead back to Lincoln. And that's easier said than done. It was easier, or it was made to look much easier in the past because you were winning a lot of ball games. You were playing in San Antonio in the Big 12 championship games, or you were in Arrowhead for a Big 12 championship game, or a decade ago you were at least in Indy for a Big 10 championship game. That's long time ago. So you're not advertising in Texas as much anymore. You've not been in Florida for bowl games. So take the best, or guys that you think can fit, have an eye for talent, that are well respected, that can reach out to other high school programs and coaches, peers, bring them up here. Put them on staff in some role as an analyst or an assistant, and go from there and let them develop and see what talent they can bring you. You've got a really well-rounded out staff right now, still with some openings as far as the diversity of experience. You've got young people. You've got guys that have been D coordinators at different conferences. For example, Mr. White. And then you bring in some high school talent, and maybe there's another name or person in state you add to help hammer home those in-state relationships, since you're not from here. But you've scoured the state to make yourself known. You've shaken a lot of hands. You've gotten in a lot of living rooms. You've made a lot of phone calls to the high school coaches around the state. And I would bet money there's a spring/summer bus tour coming. He's going to try and get every kid from every county to come to the Nebraska camps. Mm-hmm. So we can get an up close and personal look.
Well, we were talking back whenever Matt Rhule was first hired. We were doing our reaction show, and this has been part of his history, is that he goes and gets high school coaches from the places that he wants to go recruit. So we sat here and went, are there any candidates of Nebraska high school coaches that we think he could bring up? And while that still could be a possibility, I don't think we expected how Matt Rhule was going to be this hands-on with high school talent within the state. Based on what I've seen the past 20 years at Nebraska, it's the head coach among the in-state guys is not the guy going out and evaluating talent. He's the finisher. The guy who goes and shows up to the high school whenever they got the guy. Nebraska's in the top 3. He's going to go shake some hands. He's going to kiss some babies, and he's going to get that commitment. That's what the history has been, and it made sense at the time, is you're going to get this high school coach that's going to go establish relationships and be the middleman between the head coach and the talent. I don't think we expected a head coach that was going to go this hands-on and say, no, I want to go directly to the high school talent. I want to go directly to the high school coaches. I want to be their contact when it comes to talent within the state. And that does leave you a little bit vulnerable and out of state, the places that you are still well connected. Texas, Florida, Philadelphia. And while he's been to those places, it makes a lot more sense now with hindsight bias, being able to see the moves he's made, for him to say, oh, I'm going to get high school coaches from these areas that I'm not going to be able to go to as much anymore, but I still want to have a presence because I'll be all over the state of Nebraska. I don't need a high school coach from the state of Nebraska. And maybe he could still add a high school coach from within the state's borders, but I look at this and it's us playing chess and him playing 4D chess.
Sure. I still think, who's to say he doesn't add a guy that's a well-respected high school coach in as an analyst, if it's a coach that's maybe close to retirement or could be close to retirement, or maybe, hey, I have an opportunity to jump on staff here as an analyst. I know they love coaching and teaching and being with young people, but from a liaison standpoint, I mean, Kenny Wilhite's hopefully still going to be a part of the future because I think he's tremendous. But you also have what T.O. did, and that's hire Dan Young and Milt Tenneper and Frank Solich. And those guys were GAs, and then they were elevated. But Solich was cranking out state championships at Southeast. You had Dan Young doing work at West Side, and Milt was out in western Nebraska. I think he was at McCook, and you had all 3 corners of the state covered. I mean, you had the western part / central part, and then with what Frank was doing in Lincoln, and then, of course, what Dan was doing. I mean, it worked well, and you got to keep those relationships open. It is so vital and so important to the coaches that you show interest and just put the time in. They totally get, and I'm speaking for high school coaches, and they may tell me to go to hell, but it's so important for the high school coaches to at least have the head coach show his face more than just a blow through occasionally. Really care and value the relationship. You may not take a kid, but if you don't take a kid, at least you've been there to see it for yourself and evaluate. That is ultimately it. You can't possibly take all of the in-state kids that want to play or think they can play. That's what the camps are for, to help kind of get things deciphered. But you can't just ignore it. And with what he has done, with what Coach Rhule's done in a short amount of time, tour in the state, scour in the state, but also now when we talk about two of the big three states, Texas and Florida, those are big-time gets for him to go get peers that can help create that pipeline. And I think he's well-connected in Jersey with Barthel. They're really going to hammer New Jersey. And you have an athleticism, and if we're just talking out-of-state, you're going to have the work ethic and the drive and the heart in-state in Nebraska, and you're going to have the talent and athleticism. You have another set of athletes to choose from in Florida and in Texas, and you have a toughness, too, if you can really hit the Garden State. So it's working out well so far for Nebraska. We'll see how they close. Mitch Sherman's next on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. As we're going to spend some time with Mitch Sherman in a minute.
Yeah, Mitch is nearing the front of a line, and he doesn't know how he's going to do a radio interview while he's talking to the employees that are helping him. So he's going to delay it by a couple minutes, and then he'll go along with us.
Well, look at him. Holiday shopping and interviews.
It was not holiday shopping. It seems to be car troubles.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Mitch needs a hug.
Well, I pick up the phone and I say, "Hey, Mitch, how are you doing today?" And he goes,
"Not well, Elijah, not well," in that Mitch Sherman tone. Yeah. "Not well, Elijah, not well." Well, Mitch will no doubt be able to translate here in a little bit for us what's going on with the Matt Rhule hieroglyphics, the emojis, the translator.
Because I gave it my best go. I really did. And it turns out I'm terrible at math, and everyone who is listening live was able to hear how bad my math skills were. So
you're a broadcaster. That's okay.
That's why I went to broadcasting school, baby. No math here.
Nope. But Mitch plugged into the Gretna football program. He's a proud Gretna resident, as is my brother. And Mason Goldman in for Nebraska, 19th commit for the 2023 class. And that's big. You have Jason Machachek, and you have Prince Will Newmanelin. They were Monday commits. What else happens today? That's on our mind. Let's hit Casey Thompson and go to what Charles said, and that is his son intends, again, that article on 3, that he intends to go win the job. You have Casey presumably back, from what Dad's saying, gets healthy, gets ready to hit the new offense head first post-surgery. You have Sims that's been added. Potentially, you have a trackster kind of slash role from Arkansas that may transfer in, so that's 3 quarterbacks. What do you do with Smothers, who's also dinged right now and recovering? And then you have Harburg. You have Richard Torres.
You have Purdy. You
have Chubba that's there. And Chubba's got the athleticism. You got to limit the turnovers. But, I mean, until he got his high ankle smoked, he was settling in. It wasn't going to go well for anybody behind center against Michigan, but at least on some third downs with his legs, he made some plays. So there's that athleticism and element. You've got a good arm in Chubba, right? And if you design things and let him manage with using his athleticism, you saw a drive at least against Minnesota. So there's plenty of options. Not all are going to stay. You're going to see what you got by spring. And in spring, you'll be able to kind of decipher there and then move on. Who's staying, who's going, and that leads you to Dylan Raiola. Question for you. If you're Dylan Raiola, and let's do this math, Ohio State, we love you, we want you, come be a Buckeye. Sure, why not? All you do is put first-round quarterbacks into the draft. Ryan Day's a money quarterback developer. Fast forward to earlier this week. You know how to say the kid's name out of South Dakota? The quarterback?
Oh, Lincoln Keenoltz.
Yeah, Keenoltz. He ends up picking Ohio State over Caleb DeBoer and Washington. So hey, we're not going to take a 2023 quarterback has turned into, Keenoltz is too good to pass up. There we go. What do you believe? And you're closer to this situation. You've had friends that have played Division I ball that have reclassified or been able to finish up a school year to get to college early. It's no different than being a prodigy at something else. You've seen it in tennis with the IMG Academy. Why it started out was to be a golf and tennis academy, right? You see the pathway for PGA pros. They tend to get homeschooled or distance coursed and go practice and play 18 every day. That's how you develop. And if you've got a gift like that, well, in high school football and the top recruit overall, you're just drilling all the time. You're getting quarterback tutoring and guidance, and you've obviously got natural ability to make that jump, right? So you have Dylan Raiola. Is he a guy that could graduate early to join a football program? Do you believe, and we'll ask Mitch about this, that there's any possibility of Raiola reclassifying for 2023 to join a program early, have a year to groom and learn, and be an ultra early enrollee? That is possible to graduate high school early to jump into college.
But the other place I go is if you're the number one player in the country, number one quarterback and number one player, are you picking a college and planning on spending a year on the bench developing? That's a big question in my mind, because look around the quarterbacks that have been number one, that have gone off to college. And I mean, Trevor Lawrence, I think, is a great example. You thought he was going to be sitting his first year, and then no. At the end of fall camp, he's won the job, and now you got the previous starter, whose name's escaping me, into the transfer portal. Mm-hmm. You look at Justin Fields. He thought he was going to be an instant starter at Georgia. Didn't get that chance. Transfers to Ohio State and is phenomenal. I mean, these guys, the ones that are at the top of their class, at the top of the position rankings in recruiting, they expect to play early. So is Dylan Raiola in a place where he wants to reclassify up a year and then go sit for a season? Because that doesn't quite make sense to me. Unless it's a Quinn Ewers situation where he wants to go cash on NIL money and then transfer to a place where he can play immediately. But that's the general theme with all these guys. They want to play immediately. Does Nebraska, let's ask ourselves the question, does Nebraska present an opportunity for Dylan Raiola to play immediately? Maybe, probably not. Because you look at a place like Georgia. Georgia might offer that ability. Alabama might offer that ability. Even Ohio State might offer that ability. I know Ohio State's technically out of the picture now, but with the quarterbacks that they have, great quarterbacks that he wouldn't beat out, but they're going to be headed off to the NFL here soon. He can go and potentially go in a starting job in those places. You look at Nebraska and Casey Thompson coming back, and you say, could Raiola beat him out if he lives up to the hype? Potentially, but is Raiola going to pick a place where they have an incumbent coming back like this, and you have to go beat out a 25-year-old just about to go be the starter?
Here's what I believe. I don't know Dom that well,
and we also don't know that he's going to be reclassifying. This is something he's going to be.
We're just
rumors that have been out there.
We're just walking you through potential options. Are you physically and mentally gifted enough to go win a job over a guy? Let's just say that's the goal. Ewers didn't play, and we know how good he looked when he finally got in at Texas.
But he didn't play at Ohio State. No, what did he do? He transferred.
He got his money and he left. He went back home. You don't come in unless you're Trevor Lawrence or Tommy Frazier or Charles Thompson. You rarely come, Bernie Kosar. You don't come in as a freshman and A, survive, B, not get yanked or have some lumps. You typically don't have a a good season, and you typically don't have to go back into spring trying to fend off someone fighting for your job. You just don't do it. I've laid out the true freshmen that, and most of them aren't day one starters. The only guy that's been a day one starter his whole life was Peyton Manning. Okay, and that's it. Arch Manning will get that promise, but ultimately you've got to win. I think Raiola, Dad, gets it. Dom's a guy who was a great center. Dom's a guy who still had to redshirt, and then he got worked in. I think some of his first more full-time action was probably that Holiday Bowl. But Dom was a guy that came in 97, redshirted, 98, and then left early for the draft. So by year 4, he was off to the NFL, second-round pick, played damn near 20 years. Felt like it anyway. I think he gets that in college football, it's rare for the quarterback spot to come in. And look at Georgia's situation. I mean, they got a 29-year-old, not quite 29, he's 25 playing, right? I mean, quarterbacks, while there's hype initially, they've got to come in, win it, and be good enough to go win you ball games because of what's at stake. And I don't know that there's and maybe Raiola's the exception to the rule, but I don't know that there's hardly any true high school freshman that can come in and not have to sit and wait. Maybe later on in the year they get up to speed like Tommy Frazier in Game 6. Tebow didn't even start. I mean, he was. You had the red zone package for Tebow, where it was more of a jump pass, run pass, quarterback run option setup. So I just think that's a big ask, whoever gets him, to just roll the kid out there and say, all right, dude, you're it. Go live up to the hype, and we'll just ride with you. No. I mean, most guys need a year, period, to get their mind and their body ready for Big Ten or Power 5 play.
But you say most guys. When you talk about the top recruit in the country, you're not talking about most guys.
I understand that.
Caleb Williams won the starting job over an established starter his freshman season, true freshman season in Oklahoma.
But Caleb Williams...
A year later, he wins the Heisman.
Caleb Williams, though, didn't win the job over Rattler.
Not preseason, but he did halfway through the season. You look at Bryce Young at Alabama, won the job his freshman year.
But it kind of comes to my point with Rattler. Rattler was, again, the number one quarterback in the country, and he faltered, and they went to the other dude they recruited, right? And then Rattler had to go off, and he's done nice things at South Carolina, but he's needed the change of scenery because he wasn't as good as he needed to be. I mean, he took a major step back his sophomore season. He was fine as freshman, really probably pretty good for a true freshman. I know he's not normal. I know he's special as the number one player. But I think that position specifically, Bryce Young's rarefied air, baby. I mean, he is really good.
But, I mean, that's what we're talking with a guy like Rhule, though. These are all guys I'm talking. The examples I've listed are all guys who are number one in the country.
And what's around him?
Great point. That's fair.
What I mean, you've got Bama talent around him. You have Clemson talent around Trevor Lawrence. Okay, you have a really solid team, top 15, top 10 team around Tommy Frazier. Mm-hmm. Okay, you aren't going to be coming into that. You're just not by year 2 after you've had a year to learn the system. Or maybe you get the final 4 games to preserve that red shirt. Maybe it all clicks. I just think it's a big ask to. You can absolutely set your goal to be a true freshman 18-year-old starter and go kill it.
Well, I'm just saying no top recruit is going to change his classification in order to go sit for a year in college. At least I believe. I don't think
that's not the intent, but it might be the reality.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity Radio. We welcome in the pride of Ord, Husker Basketball Thoughts. Andy Markowski with us at Markowski_Andy, assistant at Pius as well. So if you have a fantastic daughter that's player of the week, does that make you dad of the week?
I would ride her coattails now for a couple of years. So if that transfers over, I'll take it, Chris.
I just had to ask, Andy, thoughts on Nebraska basketball and Coach Hoiberg and company. We'll start here with where the team's at, disappointing down against Kansas State. University of Queens gets rocking tonight. Is this, they're all big, but is this a big ball game for Fred and company?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a non-conference game, so I think you have to keep it in perspective. But, this is a team that, had built some momentum with obviously the great win at Creighton, and then, a terrific game against Purdue, and, had chances to beat a number one, caliber team. As you mentioned, the K-State game was disappointing. And this team doesn't have a lot of, margin of error, right? So if they don't bring it, if they're not healthy, if they're missing a couple pieces or a couple pieces don't play well, they can certainly be beat by solid programs. Kansas State's not a great program; it's not terrible either. So tonight, I think, is important in the sense of you beat Creighton. Now you have to keep improving. You have to find ways to win, especially at home, and you got to get yourself a little momentum going into Christmas because the Big Ten season is going to be a grind. You're already 0-2. I think it gets easier. You played at Indiana and Purdue at home, so the schedule does get a little easier. But this would be a nice win to heal up a little bit, see the ball go through the hoop, protect your home court, which is going to be important for them to have a chance to be successful in the Big Ten.
Andy Markowski with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Andy, with a team like this that's still gelling, you think there's something to the fact of how much they've struggled outside the borders of the state of Nebraska? I mean, I know Creighton was technically a road game, but it's still inside the state of Nebraska, and there was a good number of Husker fans at that game. But Nebraska, I think only one win outside the borders of the state of Nebraska thus far this season. Do you think there's something to that with a team that hasn't quite come together and might struggle on an opposing floor where the fans are rowdy and it makes things a little bit tough? Is that something to watch early in the season?
No, I don't. I mean, it's naturally hard to play on the road, but they've played a really hard schedule. I mean, if you look at, the St. John's, Big East game, they didn't have Walker, and then, then you're down with some neutral floor games against some good teams without, he had Walker in two of those, but he was just back, and, certainly you're going to Indiana. So it is hard to win on the road. I don't, think that it's unique to this group. This is a veteran group. I think that's what makes them special is they've been in adversity. They've been in those situations. I think the biggest issue potentially with this team is they're not very deep. They're dependent on Walker finding them some baskets at the 5. It was nice to see, Breitenbach and the bench find a way to score at K-State. They need some other players to step up and score. If they would have had a little bit more contributions from like a Wiltshire against Purdue, they win that game. So, when you go on the road, 4 or 5 players have to play well, and they just haven't been able to do that in some of those road situations.
Andy, one of the guys who played really well down in Kansas City, Jamarcus Lawrence. What do you think of his game, and what do you see moving forward here role-wise?
Well, he's a young kid, right? So as a freshman, I think offensively he's been able to help them probably from the start. When I went and watched him a little bit in early November, some October practices, Fred thought maybe he was one of the better shooters on the team. However, they're hanging their hat on defense right now. I mean, rotations and scouting and things that sometimes young kids struggle to adjust to. So, the fact that he was able to get in and contribute offensively, I think now that, he's, a third or, 30% through the season, you hope that he's picking up some of the defensive things that he's going to be able to do. But they need to find some points from the bench, and if he's a kid that can come in and shoot it and open the floor a little bit more for some of their drivers, that's a positive.
Andy, I got to switch gears with you to Nebraska women and KU tomorrow. KU comes in number 20, but you know what? Coach Williams and company feels like that maybe Nebraska women, they're back on track.
Well, certainly they're playing better. I think it took them some time to learn how to play without Sam Hybee. Now, the positive thing is Sam is back. It's still not, probably 100%, but, I think Jazz Shelley found her, her role playing a little bit more on the ball than off the ball. I think Alexis has settled in and has been a little bit more consistent than maybe what she was the first, couple, 3 games of the season. Izzy Bourne's hurt, so they still need to get her back. Even though they've been productive up front, Izzy's a 3-year starter, all-conference caliber player, so they need to get her back. And the schedule's tough. I encourage, if you haven't seen them, Kansas is terrific. Kansas went down and beat Arizona, which was ninth in the country, by 30. They're undefeated, so come out, tomorrow night, barring the blizzard, and support this group. And then, then they get Michigan at home, and they go to number 4 Indiana. So the next 3 games, they're going to find a lot about themselves. And to Amy's point, I do think they're playing better, but they're going to have to have that consistency if they're going to be competitive, especially in a 3-game stretch like they're up against.
And even a chance to check out the rest of the Big Ten and how they stack up. That's a topic we've hit a little bit on the men's team, just based on, how many numbers do you think that the Big Ten will get in the men this year? Have you had a chance to watch the women? And I guess I'll rephrase that same question back to you. How many Big Ten women's teams do you think are going to be going dancing this year if you've had a chance to follow that and watch?
Yeah, I think a solid 6, and 7 is kind of on the bubble. I look at a team like Purdue that has had a pretty solid non-conference. If they can find some, the great thing about the Big Ten is you can play your way in, right? I mean, you got Iowa in the top 10, you got Indiana in the top 10, you got Ohio State in the top 10. I mean, so any of these teams in the middle of the pack of the Big Ten, you find a way to win a couple of those games. Those are great resume wins. Nebraska has one already at Maryland. That's a win that comes Selection Sunday. That gets people's attention. Not a lot of people are going to go into Maryland and win or win at some of these other places. So I think the Big Ten from 4 to 10 is a lot deeper and more consistent than maybe what it was a year ago. The top was good a year ago. I think the top is good again. And if Nebraska stays healthy, I think they have a chance. They're different. Ohio State, Indiana, Iowa are all small. They play kind of 4 out around one post. Nebraska has the ability to play with 2 posts that can score. So it'll be interesting to see if we can win the 4 matchup against some of those teams, or if we're going to have to play smaller to better match. So we have I think a little bit different team than the top of the league. It'll be just interesting how it plays out.
Andy, about 30 seconds. Give us an update on Pius girls basketball, how things are rolling.
Yeah, no, thanks, Chris, for asking. We're fortunately to be 5-0. The kids are working hard, playing great. The HAC just got seeded, so the HAC conference tournament will start after Christmas. So we were fortunate to be voted number 1. So I think it's our 5th year in a row that we're the 1 seed to start the HAC, and we have our kind of our rival Lincoln Southwest. Was supposed to be Thursday night. Now it's tomorrow night due to the storm. So it's always a great in city rival against a great program at Lincoln Southwest. But happy to be a part of it, and it's fun to see high school and college basketball in full swing.
Andy, Merry Christmas to you and your family. Thanks for jumping on and talking some ball with us today.
Awesome. Same to you guys. Merry Christmas.
Take care. There he is, Andy Markowski, pride of Ord. Joining us, Husker men's and women's basketball, some high school hoops. Good to get his perspective. We've shuffled things around. Mitch Sherman, 15 minutes away. We're going to give Mitch a virtual hug. Apparently he's dealing with vehicle issues. Travis Vokolek on the way next hour.
Chime in 402-466-ESPN or email the show, Chris@HailVarsity.com.
Just try me.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for spending time, Hail Varsity Radio. So we've shifted up the lineup a bit. Big thanks to Andy Markowski for switching up and joining us a little bit earlier. Mitch Sherman's 10 minutes away. And then we talked with Travis Vokolek a little bit before the show. The full video of that is or will be posted, but we StreamYard that, and you'll be able to hear Travis Vokolek and his new do coming up at 5:25. Busy day tomorrow. Plans for signing day. Damon Benning going to be with us. Super excited to get his take on the class. Mike Babcock will join us. We'll check in with Brady Oltmans. We've got word out to some of the signees as well, which will be nice. John Gingery will join us. So jam-packed early signing day. And Elijah, what's your takeaway, man? I thought The Athletic did a great story on the 13 Colorado kids that pretty much got told to bleep off by Dion and his staff. Now, if you're Dion and you're a 1-11 football team and the previous staff has recruited what they've recruited, you look at the rankings. Well, Dion's like, I can bring in my own Louise.
And one of the things I'm wrestling with here is I'm going, well, he's just absolutely stabbing these guys in the back that have been his rosters. He's replacing them with other 3-stars. It's not like he's like replacing bad talent with better talent based on recruiting rankings. It looks the same, but then I also have to sit back and go look at our conversations of the past week and a half, 2 weeks, and say, well, not all 3-stars are built the same. Some fit a system better. Some you might think are underrated by the
they could leave
services.
2 days after they show up whenever the portal opens. And there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty anymore, that's the way of the world, and that's what it is. The manner in which the message has been delivered, I think, needs some work. If you're Dion and you're not taking these kids, then you need to make a phone call. Metzger's was one of the kids that was on this buff list that their scholarships were offered and not held on to. Well, Metzger's ended up at K-State. Nebraska was in hot pursuit after him at the tight end spot.
Well, yeah, and these guys said it was a 30-second conversation. Hey, we're not honoring your scholarship anymore. Good
Peace.
luck. That was it. It was a 30-second conversation. So the way that the message was delivered is the problem.
And who did it?
It wasn't Dion.
I know. It may not even have been a position coach.
No, it was someone.
Some staffer.
Yeah, and the guy didn't even introduce himself. He said,
hey, dude, I'm from the Buffs. You're out. Thanks. Peace.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
That's a very, very good way to sum up these conversations. That's about how it went. And it's really interesting to see the two different sides of people who are talking about Dion. There's people saying, well, that's the way of college football. Loyalty is just a word in the dictionary, and you got to do what you got to do to turn around a football program. These guys were coming to Colorado, so clearly they weren't that good. Why would you be going to a 1-11 football program anyway? There's that side, and there's other people saying college football it's a close-knit community. It's a fraternity, and word gets around of how you treat other people, and this isn't the way you go about it in college football. And I'm not sure which is right. I'm not sure which is wrong. I think time will have to tell and see what the results
What
look
isn't
like,
on the same page is the athletic director calling these kids personally after Durrell was blown out, saying, we will honor your scholarship. Yep. And then Dion and the AD being on the same on different pages. We got Coach Barnett coming up Thursday. Get his take on this situation. Mitch Sherman on the way, 10 minutes away with Hail Varsity, Hour 2.
Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency for all your equipment financing needs. Go Currency. Travis Vokolek, our conversation with him. In about 20 minutes, we welcome in with the Athletic, Mitch Sherman joining us at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, how's the day, man?
A little bit of Murphy's Law going on, Chris. I can't lie to you. We're trying to get everything in a good position ahead of this incoming storm of the century that's going to hit us tomorrow. Got some localized travel coming up. My wife's car started acting up. Was trying to fix a tire pressure issue. Got a nail in the tire now that I've just discovered or has been discovered. So this car is going to sit in the garage for the next few days and hopefully not turn into an undrivable vehicle with a flat tire, but we'll get through. Everything's good, and on the football front, got signing day tomorrow, so that's exciting.
It is. I am sorry for the old nail in the tire. Those suck, and they are not fun to deal with, and they're not fun to deal with this time of year. So you've had time. Have you been able to translate Mr. Rhule, Coach Rhule's emojis? Can you give us a little crystal ball? Elijah did some math earlier.
It was bad math,
but
I stand by.
But
I stand by my interpretation.
You worked the problem. I'm proud of you for it.
I'm working on a master decoder system that will allow us to translate the Matt Rhule emojis into speakable English, and it's still a work in progress. I think I can translate some of it. A lot of times it's based on current events that are happening on the landscape and recruiting. I'm curious if he will continue with the code over Twitter in normal times. When we're not a few days away from the open of the early signing period, or a period when he's got official visitors on campus. Is he going to be like this during the season? I suspect not. I think this is more a recruiting thing, and I think it's more an early in the tenure kind of tactic. I don't think we'll see this from Matt Rhule 2-3 years down the road necessarily, or probably not with this kind of frequency. It's been fun to follow him. We've not had a head coach at Nebraska who's been active in this way on Twitter, or really assistant coaches period, who've been active this way and letting the public and the media in to some degree to have an idea of the coach being excited about this or that. And, some of it's been fun, some of it's been mysterious, some of it's been, I don't know what to make of it, but it's all being intensely analyzed.
Well, your analysis right now, based on what's verbalized, 19 commits, some portal guys, a part of that. What's your feel right now with Nebraska and Rhule, their momentum for 2023?
Yeah, portal guys on top of the 19. So 19 is just the signees, the recruits. I'm trying to think. Is there anybody out of junior college?
Don't see any JUCOs.
I don't think. Yeah, I think it's all high school kids among those 19, and then you've got three known transfer portal additions. We've been through this. We've been down this road before at Nebraska, where coaches have come in and put together transition classes, and you see a large number of players jumping on board in a short period of time, and there's always a lot of excitement over it. And with some exceptions, these classes tend to have a high miss ratio. Mm-hmm. So I'm not saying that's the case with this one, but I think that's just generally the case with prospects that are not vetted as thoroughly as what you get for a coach who's been here for a year or 2 years. Matt Rhule's 2024 class, it's undeniable, is going to be more thoroughly vetted. The coaches are going to have more established relationships with those players than they do with these guys in the 23 group. Now, what's impressive to me is that it's not random. It's not like they're just throwing darts out there and trying to collect, any 3-star player or, semi-known commodity on the recruiting map that they can find. You can see geographically the way that Matt Rhule has gone about these past 3 weeks and 2 days. And, he had a plan. He started at home and said, all right, I'm going to lock down the guys, or work to lock down the guys who are already in the fold for Nebraska, and then add some players to that mix. And then he went to Texas, and he went to Pennsylvania, and, which are proven, those are the 2 states that he's been a head coach in. And they spread out from there, and they went and they checked in on the out-of-state recruits that Nebraska had under the previous coaching staff. So he hasn't deviated from that plan. So that to me, indicates that he's been strategic about this. It's not random, and not just geographically where he's gone and from a time management perspective, but also the type of player that he's recruited. They fit the mold of the Matt Rhule recruit that we've seen sign with him at Temple and at Baylor, and that he's loading up on athleticism and speed and track guys. And on the defensive side in particular, I think they've got some really good football players.
Mitch Sherman is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. And Mitch, we led off the show by talking about Matt Rhule going down to Texas and going down to Florida and picking up high school coaches for his staff to come up in his system. You assume help in recruiting as well. I want to get your take on those moves and what you make of them. And maybe do you think Matt Rhule adds a Nebraska high school coach in the same way?
Well, he did that at Baylor. He hired 3 Texas high school football coaches, and one of them was Joey McGuire, who's now the head coach at Texas Tech. So this is in his blueprint. It's different to be in the state of Texas and go out and try to find high school coaches who are ready to be assistant coaches in college. It's different to do that there than it is in the state of Nebraska. There are many, many times more high schools and more coaches to choose from in the state of Texas. So I don't know that he's going to find somebody from the Nebraska high school coaching ranks and put that coach in a position to be on the Nebraska staff. If he does, and there are certainly qualified coaches out there, it's just they're lower in numbers than what you have in the state of Texas. It remains to be seen. There's nobody who's known to have made that jump yet. I'm sure he'd be on the lookout for that. And just because he doesn't hire that guy right now, that doesn't mean that he won't do it in the future. In fact, I think at some point, if Matt Rhule stays at Nebraska for the length of his contract, he's absolutely going to dip into the Nebraska high school ranks and find a coach and bring that coach up the ladder. You'll see it, and you're seeing it now in his first weeks on the job with, as you mentioned, Elijah, going to Florida and getting Philip Simpson, who's got some kind of a role on the staff, likely in a non or an off the field position, helping with recruiting, helping in the types of things that like an analyst would do, and then we also know about Bob Wager, the coach from Arlington Martin. He's not officially done. I have had a relationship with him, or have spoken with him in the past in some work that I've done, and talked to him briefly today. He said it's still working through some things. He was here in Lincoln, or is here in Lincoln, and has been here on a visit. You're talking about a guy in Wager, if Rhule brings him on, who is extremely respected in the state of Texas as a high school coach, and has been around that state for a long time and produced some big time players like Myles Garrett, who was the number one pick in the NFL draft out of Texas A&M, and would be a score for Nebraska from the side of the recruiting side of things when you go into the state of Texas. Whether he's in the office as in that kind of a role, or he is he's out on the road as a full-time assistant coach. Potentially you could fit him into your offensive staff. That remains to be seen. If he in fact does come on board at Nebraska. But again, like Rhule did at Baylor, he's tapping into connections and looking to the high school ranks to fill spots in certain roles on his staff, and that's outstanding. That's how you grow. That's how you grow grow young coaches, and that's how you bring coaches along in this business. I think the guys who are coming in these support staff roles are going to have opportunities, if not right now, in the future, to be on-field full-time assistants for Matt Rhule at Nebraska.
Mitch Sherman, few minutes with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Read Mitch with The Athletic at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. Mitch, thoughts on Casey Thompson and that 2023 job? And to piggyback that, what's your read on Dylan Raiola and Nebraska because of his recent decommitment from Ohio State?
Yeah, there's a lot going on at the quarterback spot for Nebraska with Jeff Sims in the committed to Nebraska as a transfer from Georgia Tech. You've got Malik Hornsby, who could come to Nebraska as another quarterback transfer with the potential to move positions if that's something that he and this Nebraska staff agree on. If in fact Hornsby ends up in Lincoln, you've got Casey Thompson on the verge of it sounds like an announcement that he's going to be back. I know Charles Thompson has talked to Steve Sipple about that, and that certainly carries a lot of weight. I want to hear it from Casey. We would like to hear it from Matt Rhule about Casey, not just that he's back, but also what his prognosis is after what sounds like serious major shoulder surgery in the wake of last season. Is he going to be ready for? I don't think he'll be ready for the spring. Where's he going to be at in getting ready for preseason camp? Would seem like that's probably a good outlet look, but it'll be interesting to see how, if Casey's a part of this, how that plays out over the months ahead with Sims and with Thompson and with whomever is there in that room. Right now you still have Logan Smothers, you still have Chuba Purdy, you still have Heinrich Harburg and Richard Torres. They're not all going to be there come August. You're not going to have 6 or 7 scholarship quarterbacks. It's more likely going to be 4 or 5 at the most. So that's all interesting. And at the same time, all that anybody really wants to talk about is Dylan Raiola, who's still got a year of high school left, and the number one player in the country for 2024, consensus, top guy out there from Chandler, Arizona. Of course, the son of Dominic and the nephew of Donovan. That is very intriguing, what happened on Saturday with his decommitment from Ohio State. I would say that Nebraska's in a good spot to be able to end up with Dylan as a commitment and as the premier commitment for its 2024 class. That has yet to happen, and we don't want to get ahead of this situation too much, but it's certainly looking like things are trending in that direction with Donovan's retention on the staff and Dominic's involvement in wanting to be around the program, and the number of times that Dylan has visited Lincoln, recent visits, as recent as the end of October when they came for the Illinois game. So keep an eye on it. We'll see where this goes over the weeks ahead. But if he jumps in and he's the lead member of that 2024 recruiting class, that could lead to some big things between now and next year's signing day.
Well, Mitch, do we know it's going to be 2024? There's rumors going around today, and I think they may have originated from Ohio State side of things, that Dylan Raiola, some of where the frustration may have come from was the fact that he may have been looking to reclassify up to 2023 and get into the Ohio State program upon the departure of C.J. Stroud, not wait for another year, but then Ohio State goes and gets Keynotes, and now that plan's out the window. Is there anything to that? Have you heard any rumors like that as well?
No, but Quinn Ewers did it at Ohio State. He reclassified and came in a year early. I know one thing about Dylan, and I've talked to Dylan a few times, and know his family, and I've known that family for more than 20 years. They're going to be on top of things, and Dylan is not what you would say is like your normal high school junior. He's a savvy guy. They were in Texas, in Burleson, Texas, early in his high school career, and then moved out to Arizona this year. I don't know exactly what his academic situation is and if he would be in position to graduate in 3 years, but he would be a candidate, the type of prospect and student in the classroom and student of the game in football who I think would be able to handle that kind of a move. But no, I've not heard anything at all along those lines that he's looking to reclassify.
But you're saying there's a chance.
I suppose, and then, wow. I mean, if that were the case, just hypothetically, and he could come and be a part of your program in August, you're really looking at an interesting situation. I would not expect that as a 17-year-old or a 16-year-old, however old Dylan is, in 6 months or 9 months, that he would be looking to come in and be your starting quarterback next year, but. Get a year under his belt and be ready to go in 24. Sure, that would that would help if he's in a position to be able to do that.
Mitch Sherman with us from The Athletic, at Mitch Sherman on Twitter. It's where you follow him. Mitch, we'll see you at the presser tomorrow. Thanks for making time for us today, bud, and we'll check in soon.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Appreciate you. There he is, Mitch Sherman. Good stuff on Dylan Raiola and Nebraska's class. Really good rundown. Travis Vokolek off to the NFL. Get his thoughts on how things went down in 2022. Hail Varsity continues, presented by Currency. Back with you at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by Currency. As we're in the StreamYard, we say hi to Husker tight end Travis Vokolek. And for those catching the show on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel, Travis, do a full 180, my friend, because...
What is he, an owl?
Well, no, the mullet is gone. It is gone.
It is. It was time to get rid of it. It was a good run. So,
well, we'll start with the mullet. Thank you again. We had a lot of fun chatting with you through your career at Nebraska. We'll get to the NFL. We'll get to the next moves for you. But, okay, the mullet said sayonara win. We need that story.
Yeah, it's I've always given credit to Jack Stoll. When I first got here, he was always joking around that we needed another tight end with a mullet, and I thought it was a joke, and I was like, "There's no way I'm ever going to do that." And then he finally talked me into it, and started growing it. Right before COVID hit, that first year I was here, and it lasted for a while. It was a great run, but at the end of the day, had to get rid of it. I was telling you guys before, guys on the team and I kind of agreed that when my college career was over, that I was gonna get rid of it, and so I did. And not gonna lie, I missed it a little bit. My neck's been freezing out in this crazy weather we've been having. It's freezing outside, and it's definitely been different. But it was a good time while I had it, and it's gone now.
Well, tell me, what was the hardest part of being a mulleted man? Well, was it that first couple months? I had some friends who grew some long hair, and they said that was really difficult. But then you had been a football guy. You got to fit all that hair into a helmet, and then at the end, you got to cut it. What was the worst part of your mulleted experience?
Yeah, there's a lot of good that went into having a mullet. There's not a lot of bad about it. The only thing I'd say is, when you start growing one, there's some awkward stages where you kind of cut up top and on the sides, and you have some long hair in the back, and it's just kind of ugly. But that's why you wear hats. I was wearing a hat everywhere in the awkward stage, and last year or 2 years ago when it was really long, and then this past season I kind of kept it shorter. But not a lot of bad experiences with it. I missed the flow. I loved it. I guess another bad experience I had was in fall camp. It's 100 degrees outside, and you have that bunch of hair under your helmet, and it's hot and heavy. I enjoyed it, and it was a good run.
Travis Vokolek with us, T Vokolek 2. Follow him on Twitter. As fantastic career at Nebraska. Travis, you mentioned Jack Stoll, Austin Allen, and your next NFL dreams. You made the announcement yesterday. Now, you're out of eligibility, but there's a lot of things you could choose to go do, but you're going to keep your football life going. What's some feedback you've received, if any, and what's on the horizon here? What's the plan here, workout-wise and interview-wise?
Yeah, I give a lot of credit to Jack and Oz and even Cam Jurgens. I've kind of been talking with them throughout this whole process, throughout the whole year, because you've got agents reaching out left and right throughout the whole year, trying to get you to sign with them or give them a verbal yeah or whatever whenever your eligibility's done. They've done a great job, continuing to guide me in how this process works. And it can be stressful during the season because you're trying to focus on football and school, and then you want to think about the future as well. I recently signed with an agent, some guys that I'm really comfortable with and I trust, and I did that a couple weeks ago, and I'm headed out to Pensacola, Florida, to go train at Exos down in Florida, where the weather's a lot warmer and there's not snow, and I guess we're having a big snowstorm come through here in the next couple of days or whatever, and there won't be any snow down there, so I'm looking forward to that. But yeah, I'm headed down to Florida. I'll be down there for a couple months training, just getting the body right and getting the body back from the season. I'll be down there for a couple months, and then I'll hopefully get an invite to the combine. I'm not 100% sure when those all come out, but that would be something that I'd be very thankful for if I got an invite to the combine. And then I've got a NFL PA Bowl invite I'm super excited about, and that's end of January that I'll be out in California. That's at the Rose Bowl. So that'll be pretty sweet to get out there and, perform in front of scouts and, be coached by NFL coaches and, be able to play in the Rose Bowl Stadium. I think that'd be pretty sweet. So I'll go out there, and then I'm not 100% sure when our pro day is yet. I know with the new coaching staff, I've talked with a couple of them. I've been up at the stadium working out, and I've met the new strength coach, and he's kind of been talking me through stuff, and because he was with the Panthers, and he's been talking about what they do for their workout wise, and how it's just different than college football. And something about the staff and Coach Rhule is that he's mentioned how big pro day is for them, and how it's a big deal, and how they try to set it up to make it a big deal for us. So I'm super excited about these next couple of months. It's going to be busy, so kind of enjoying my time off right now. Been dealing with injuries throughout the season that, finally getting the body back, getting those healthy, and doing rehab and working out, and going to enjoy the holidays with my parents and family, and then head down to Florida.
Travis Vokolek with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Travis, impressions right now with this new staff. You bumped into them a handful of times, but it's the next chapter in Nebraska football, new staff, some changes, and early thoughts here on what some of the guys that you're still close with are coming back to.
Yeah, I've talked to a couple of the guys in the tight end room on the offense and defense, and they seem like they're really excited about it. I was super excited that we, with that last win at Iowa, and man, it feels good to say that to finally beat those guys while I was here, and carrying that trophy is something I'll remember forever. It was awesome to send them, out with some momentum, some positive momentum into the next year. So they've been saying, a lot of good things and how they're super excited, and I can't wait to watch.
Travis Vokolek is with us here at Hail Varsity Radio. And Travis, before we look too far ahead to the future, I do want to quickly go back to what has been really a tumultuous senior year for you and the rest of the team, a lot of ups and downs. And I want you to take me through this season from, over the summer trying to find a rapport with the new quarterback in Casey Thompson, and then you get into this season and head coach gets fired halfway through the year, and I'm sure that caused some tough times within the team, and then to cap it all off with the win against Iowa. Take me through that roller coaster, what it was like for you, and what you may have taken from this season, life lessons, if you will.
Yeah, it was a roller coaster. A lot of good things, some not so good things, but starting off in Ireland, that was an awesome experience. Guys really enjoyed that experience we had down there, and unfortunately didn't get the win. But I thought, man, it was a great trip. There was a lot to build off on that game, even though we didn't win. But yeah, going back to summer, with our new offensive coordinator and new quarterbacks coming in, we were grinding like crazy, and a lot of people don't understand just how hard student athletes and football players and every athlete on college campuses, they don't understand the commitment and the sacrifices that a lot of guys make behind closed doors. And we were grinding like crazy, like you said, trying to find those connections with new quarterbacks and new transfers, new receivers, new defensive guys that all came in. But I thought we did a great job, and we were really confident going in the season that things were going to go well. And there was a lot of highs, a lot of lows, and it's something I'll never regret is just playing here and making relationships that are going to last forever with guys on the team and people at this university. And it's, I guess, for life lessons, I'd say you just got to keep grinding. It's a true grind with college football. There's going to be injuries, there's going to be mistakes, there's going to be mess ups, there's going to be losses. It's how you respond to it, and that's something I really was really prideful in this team, is that we didn't give up. Even when things didn't go our way, we continued to come back on Sundays and Mondays throughout the week and grind and fight and just itch our way back to compete for another game on Saturday. And I was really prideful in that with this team.
Travis Vokolek with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. We were out in Iowa City for pre and post game, and watching that first half, and then the third quarter where it was comfortable, and just kind of scanning the Nebraska fans that made the trip. That was interesting to kind of people watch, and then as the fourth quarter got deeper, it got nervous, and then the Hawkeye fans got into it, and you guys found a way to withstand. What do you remember about that fourth quarter, being a part of it on the offensive side of things, but overall? Was there a nervousness that crept up within you?
Yeah, I'd say in previous years, there were times that in games where we were like, oh, crap, here we go again. We have a big lead, we're going to blow it. It's kind of stuff like that. But in Iowa, in Iowa City, it never crossed my mind that we were going to win that football game. It offense didn't produce, as well as it did in the first half. But we kept going out there, kept fighting. We knew our defense was going to make a couple big plays, and like they did all year. Our defense played well, great all year. Gene Ellie and Nick and Reimer and all those guys, our linebackers, and our whole defense, our back end, we've got a lot of confidence in them, and we knew that they were going to come up big for us. And, we kept going out there and, continued to try and make plays. Casey and Trey in that first half, man, those guys were unbelievable. And Trey Palmer, he's going to be a baller in the NFL. I can't wait to watch what he's going to do. And he's a great dude, and I'm very proud to call myself his teammate. But it's at the end of the day, I knew we were going to win that game no matter what happened, and it's just great that we could get that win for our seniors and build momentum into the next year.
What is it about finally getting Iowa, border rival? You're a Missouri kid, so you know the region and the bragging rights, and it had been a while. You guys got that done, but are they a team that you respect? Are they a team that you just really, if you had a draft pick to beat, that'd be the one? I mean, where does that rivalry kind of stack up from your shoes, from your experience in Lincoln?
Yeah, I've had a bunch of family from Iowa City, and my dad was at Northern Iowa for a little bit, so he knew those coaches pretty well. And when I entered the portal, they recruited me pretty hard, and ultimately ended up choosing Nebraska over them. And I always respect our opponent. I respect Iowa, and they're a great football team, and I was just happy that we could get that win, and it was just huge for our seniors because we never held that trophy before, and man, that plane ride home was a lot of fun, and we had a great time.
Political answer there. I respect those guys.
Was that a whole can or a half can in the picture is my question.
Yeah, my mom wasn't very happy with it.
Neither was mine.
It was funny. I was sitting there, and I didn't think they were going to post it on Twitter or Instagram or whatever they posted it on, and then I pull it up, and Ginelli and I sit by each other on the airplane, and he's showing me that picture, and he's just showing me all the comments about people, commenting on the chaw in my mouth. It was hilarious. But, it was just we had a great time in that. That was a fun plane ride home. And, it was a great win for our seniors.
That wasn't a chaw. That was a damn horseshoe, though.
That was a Lenny Dykstra tribute is what that was.
Yeah.
Travis, we'll get you out of here. But you mentioned a little bit earlier about the portal and what the portal is now compared to what the portal was when you left Rutgers for Nebraska. Advice to people considering greener pastures, each to their own, yes, but it's crazy right now how many thousands of kids are in the portal that may or may not have a spot.
Yeah, it's when I went in the portal, there was like 100 kids or something like that, and that was 4 years ago. And it's just changed like crazy, changed drastically. With the way college football is now, and it's some advice that I have for guys that are thinking about doing it is you need to weigh out all your options and understand that if you are taking that risk when you go in the portal, there is a chance you won't find a home. And you just need to make the best decision for yourself. It's not about what anybody else wants. It's what you want and what your family wants. So I was fortunate to find a great landing spot here at Nebraska, and really enjoyed my time. But I saw a thing where I think only 60% kids or something like that only find another team to go play for or whatever, and it's somewhere around there. I'm not sure the exact percentage or whatever, but you just got to weigh out all your options and understand that the grass isn't always greener. And that it's a big risk. But I was really fortunate to find a landing spot, and really enjoyed my time here in Nebraska.
Travis, last thought before we get you out. You mentioned headed off to Florida here shortly, getting ready for the combine and getting ready for the draft. And I want to know, what are you going to be focusing on over these next couple of months? And I know a lot of guys are going to say, well, I'm focusing on all aspects of my game, but it's only a few short months to get ready. So what do you want to improve? What do you want to show the scouts before the NFL combine and before the NFL draft?
Yeah, something that I really think I could work on is my speed. It's tough this whole year, playing with an injured ankle and all that stuff, and that's not an excuse, but I just feel like I can really showcase, I can run, being a 6'7", 255, 260 kid. And that's something I really think that I could work on down in Florida. And I know that the guys down there are gonna put me in great situations with training and, recovery and, making my body right for the combine and the other opportunities ahead.
Gesicki's a guy that I think of that's around your height or kind of that range. Obviously, what Kelsey's doing. Who are some guys you love watching and you think, okay, it'd be great to be able to pattern my game after, or who do you even pattern your game after? How does your game fit in the NFL, do you think, your assets?
Yeah, I love watching Kittle. I love that video of him whenever he's blocking, and he's drive blocking a guy and he's smiling and laughing. So that's something I really like watching. A couple other guys, Kelsey. I love watching Gronk's film when he was playing. He's a beast. And there's a couple other guys, but I really like watching Kelsey and Kittle and Gronk, and I think it'd be awesome to do what they're doing, and it'd be a great opportunity.
Travis Vokolek with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Travis, best to you. We'll stay in touch, and thanks for your time throughout your career, man. Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you guys so much.
Good to spend time with Travis Vokolek, and that full interview from this segment and the previous segment, the full sit-down in StreamYard will be posted shortly if it's not already.
It's already posted up on YouTube.
Look at you. You're like, you stupid old man.
So you can go check out the video feed. You can check out the hair. It's on YouTube right now.
Yeah, he did a 180. It's Hail Varsity YouTube channel.
Yeah, it'll also be posted up whenever we post up the full video of this show on YouTube a little bit later tonight.
Sure.
So if you're a person who likes to catch it that way, or if you're a person who catches bits and pieces of the show and you want to catch the full show later tonight, that is the way you go to watch that.
We have a user that says, hey, what about Vokolek? Is he excited about the new management? He's had positive interactions, especially Coach Campbell already, the strength and conditioning coach, getting him geared up and ready for the NFL. And that's a nice mesh, quite honestly, because Rhule and a lot of his dudes are not far removed from the NFL, and they knew and know how important the combine and the pro day is when it comes to evaluating and scouting.
And I don't want to put words into Travis's mouth, but my read from his answer to that question was essentially they've helped me out with everything I've wanted. I have nothing bad to say about them, but also I'm probably not the person to ask. Yeah. That was my take on it.
Because he's not there anymore.
He's like, yeah, I've limited interaction with them. They've been helpful. I'm excited for a pro day. They said they're going to help me out with that, but other than that, I can't speak to it all that much. That was my read to it.
Sure.
I'm not sure excited for new management's the way I'd put it, but I don't think he has anything bad to say about the new management.
None of these kids that have been at Nebraska the last 4, 5, 6, 7 years want to see people that brought him in or they transferred into gone, period. It's just not what you want, because that's who you committed to play for. Things didn't work out. Things have shifted, new regime, and you support the program, theoretically. And then I think he's, again, I'm not speaking for him, but he's handling it like a professional. So good on Travis Vokolek. Best to him in the NFL. NFL power rankings are out. Really not a change.
Broncos number 1. They got the win this weekend.
Number 1 from the bottom. Philly's still number 1. They stay in the top spot. Buffalo, that was a big win over Miami. Impressive win. Really, I was impressed by how Miami handled the elements. I know you're supposed to as a pro, but it was right there, and it took another Josh Allen drive to get that thing handled. Chiefs looked good. Kansas City's got a knack, especially this season, for walk-off wins. McKinnon was electric, and I know Clyde's been down, so there's your top 3. That's not a shocker. What Cincinnati did in the second half of a game where Tampa really just needed one more score to turn the lights out, and it turned into a fumble fest. San Fran with Pretty looked more than serviceable. Dallas and Minnesota, who are they really?
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, a Tuesday edition, Hail Varsity, presented by Currency. For all your equipment financing needs, go Currency. Schmidt and Elijah Herbel. Give us a follow on Twitter at Schmidt_radio or at Herbal Essence. Follow the show at HVarsity Radio. Can watch the show that way or on the Hail Varsity YouTube channel. Can get caught up with Damon Benning And, of course, Andrew, those guys do a tremendous job in the morning here locally on ESPN Lincoln, so check them out 7 to 9. And a reminder to get buckled up. Using your seatbelt saves lives, prevents injuries, and only if you're properly buckled up. This message from the Nebraska Department of Highway Safety Office. We'll have full signing day recap, bits of the press conference. Commits will join us tomorrow, and we'll get it kicked off with Damon Benning and Mike Babcock in hour one. East coach John Gingery will be with us. And Nebraska getting Florida transfer edge Chief Borders to join his mate, which is nice. Corey, it's not Collier, is it?
I think it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not French. Fine.
Well, it could be Collier.
Yeah.
No way.
I don't know. I thought I heard somebody who's way smarter than me say it differently earlier in the week.
Well, let it be known that there are a lot of people out there smarter than you and me, Schmidt. So
no, that's wow. So we'll say the safety, right? Corey Collier, and you have Chief Borders. Borders, a top 40 edge, Chicago kid, 6'5", 240. And 3 years to play. Mm-hmm. So you're getting some guys that have had a taste of SEC football. And they've not liked where they've been at in Gainesville. So they're probably dudes that were on a board at Baylor at one time or on a board somewhere with some of these assistants at one time or another. Hey, remember us? Yeah, nice to see you. How about you come to Nebraska? And Gainesville's never really had a problem attracting or using talent. So I like that.
Yeah, it's obviously, I think I'm, especially with portal guys, more wait and see. There's a reason that they're into the portal. And you have to kind of evaluate that with everybody.
You do.
And some people, it could just come down to they didn't get the right opportunity. They weren't in the right offense. You look at a guy
coaching change, too.
Yeah, coaching change. Maybe there's great talent ahead of them. They never got the chance. That's the case of a guy like Trey Palmer. Maybe there's new talent coming in that's going to be pushing them out. New coaching staff, and they want a fresh opportunity. Maybe they never quite found their footing. You don't know. There's something that was wrong at their last stop. So especially with transfer portal kids more than recruiting kids, I am in wait and see mode. Let's see what they do on the field first. But Borders, athletically, he's got the frame. He's put on some weight during his time at Florida. It sounds like he might be a little more college ready and maybe make an instant impact. A guy that can slot right into that linebacker position because Nebraska still searching for a third that they could put next to Henrich and Reimer, assuming both those guys are back.
Yeah, well, and you got a guy who played in 4 games in 2021, redshirted. So, again, 3 years of eligibility, but we'll have a signing day blowout for you tomorrow, and it'll get kicked off the right way with coffee and cream in the morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Check that out as good stuff from you today, Elijah, per the usual. Chris Schmidt will send it to the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Hail Varsity YouTube channel. If you want to catch today's show, talk to you for signing day 2023 tomorrow.